Mike Triem and Liz Franzel with you, and we're joined by Stacy Echeverria. Stacy is with True You Ministries. She is a pastoral counselor and so many other things. Maybe author someday soon, correct? Or are you already an author?
Not yet.
Okay. I think that's in the plan, is it not, Stacy?
It is.
Okay. And we're talking about developing a heart of gratitude. So, Stacy, thanks so much for taking time with us. We're really pleased to be partners with you. We're getting to know each other, and we just feel like you have a lot of value for our listeners. So thanks for taking the time with us.
Oh, absolutely. It's my pleasure. Thank you so much.
So tell us, as listeners hear this interview, we're rolling towards Christmas, and you talk about developing a heart of gratitude. Well, that's something that for some of us, that's not very easy, especially around this time of year.
Yeah. No, it isn't. There's a lot that comes packed in the time of year that we're in currently. I know for me, for the longest time, the holiday season was really difficult because of my family of origin, and it's the most wonderful time of year for me. It's my favorite, and yet there were hard things. And so as a believer, as I've been a believer for a really long time, the Lord has been working in my heart about that, and that is to not miss His presence during this time and everything that He's doing. Because we could get so caught up in performance and outdoing someone else in the lights on the house and the decorations, and we're missing the true reason for this time of year, and that is Christ coming as a baby and coming in human skin and all that means to us. And so there's a lot to be grateful around that, for sure.
Stacy, how do you recommend to your clients to get out of kind of the rush and the me, everything points us towards, well, we have to do these things for other loved ones, and we want to do that, but how do you get out of that?
Yes. Well, so much of that has to do with performance and image and validation and acceptance and affirmation. And I'll tell you, when it comes to people, that bar always gets changed. It goes higher and higher, and the line always moves. But with God, it stays the same. So it's focusing on God. And what is it that He wants us to do, right? So it's consulting Him. It's praying to Him. And it's just being centered and aligned with His will. And it isn't about getting that approval from others, but it's being in the will of God. And that will take some time. It means being alone with Him. It means taking time in prayer. It means spending time with Him and truly wanting to hear what it is that He wants to do. And really, the motivation of the heart. Why are you doing all those things? If it's not bringing you joy, if it's not making you happy, if you're stressed and overwhelmed, my advice would be to stop doing those things.
Stacy, Liz and I have talked a little bit about this just here at the office, but don't we kind of get caught up in, well, we have to get this kind of gift, or I have to do X, or I have to do Y, and really the person would say, you don't have to get me anything. Why don't you just grace me with your presence? Exactly.
I agree with that. Well, and that's the same thing with the Lord, too. We also, in our human doing rather than being, we think it's our works that gets us closer to Him, and all He wants is for us to enter into His presence and to spend time with Him. And that's all any of us, really need when it comes down to the nuts and bolts of things. It's about the relationship and the connection. It's relationship and connection with the Lord, and it's relationship and connection with people. We're not going to remember, honestly, what people got us, but we will remember the time we spent with people and the quality of that time that we spent with people.
We're speaking with Stacy Echeverria. She is the founder of True You Ministries. It's trueyouministries.com, and that's YOU ministries.com. And Stacy does a ton of counseling, pastoral counseling, and more. And also, she is an option. You do Zoom counseling. So someone even in Colorado, despite you being in California, can get help from you, right?
Absolutely. Because I'm licensed as a pastor and I'm not state licensed, I'm not restricted as to where I can counsel people. I counsel people from all over the world. And they may not be able to come over to my home and do counseling in person, but Zoom is a wonderful option as well.
It is. And I love that you did the the lack of state licensing is a good thing in this case, because then you're not beholden by the state. And our listeners know when you have to answer to the state, that is not a good thing. We learned all of that crystal clear in COVID, if you didn't know it before.
Yeah, no kidding.
You know?
I mean, for me, it was really about, well, wait a minute. My faith is very much a part of who I am, and true healing comes from Jesus Christ. Now, if I'm going to be restricted as to whether or not I can initiate that conversation or talk about, the scriptures and how they can help, or even initiate prayer, then I don't want to be state licensed. I don't want to have those restrictions on me. And I tell every person who schedules a consultation with me, I remind them, I'll say to them, I'm a licensed pastoral counselor, so I do biblical counseling. Is that what you're looking for? And they're like, absolutely. I said, great, we can continue the conversation. Yeah. But if they're not, then I won't be able to really work with them, because if they're not open to the things of the Lord, where I really know in my own experiences, in my own healing journey, that He is the one that truly heals, and He heals completely.
Now, Stacy, I know Liz has a question. Before she asks that question, I think as you work, well, let's do this. At the end, anybody listening right now, try to tag on, stay until the end in about 8 minutes, and we'll talk about how you can get a hold of Stacy. Liz, go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Stacy, early on in the conversation, you talked about how the holidays can be really hard, and even for yourself, there's some things that are difficult. What would you say to our listeners as we are talking about developing a heart of gratitude? What would you say to them, to those that this season is hard for them? What would you suggest they do to help them overcome the emotional side of things that could be difficult for them, and to have a heart of gratitude?
Yeah, that's a great question. For me, it got to the point of focusing on what God was doing in my life and not on what was happening, or not focusing on what I did not have in terms of the family that I wanted. So really, it's just staying focused on Him, being present with Him, learning in the struggles, right? We're not going to diminish the struggle or the hardship or the challenges and say, you'll get over it. That's a process. It's acknowledging that there is hardship, that there is hard times, that there are challenges. However, if we stay too long in that, we can experience depression, not wanting to engage with others, and become isolated. But taking one step at a time, and that is, what's one thing in the struggle, in the hardship, can you be grateful for? What is God doing in that time of struggle with you? Because you're not alone in it. He is with you, and it's really about recognizing where He is in it.
Right. And for you and I, that's pretty common thought for us. But for those that aren't really sure of, what does it look like to be in God's presence? What does it look like to bring His presence into, the depression or the thoughts or whatever? What would you suggest to them, an easy way of connecting with Him on a deeper level?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's as simple as, Lord, help me. Help me to know that you're near. And He wires us. He wires every single one of us so unique in the way that we can recognize that it's Him. And He will make Himself known to people in the way that they will be able to recognize that it is Him. And so it's just as simple as, Lord, help me, Lord, show me, and make it really clear. I have done that so many times. And He is so faithful to make Himself known and to make it really clear that it is Him. And so it's really coming like the children, right? So simple, and just saying, I don't know, but you do. Show me. Show me.
I love how you said it. And it is simple. And sometimes we try and make it so hard, or think it's harder than it is. But even that, just help me, Lord. I don't know what to do. Or, Lord, I'm really hurting. Would you just fill my lonely place? Something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's just those simple things. I mean, even it could be, God will speak to you even in movies. He'll speak to you in, right? And He'll speak to you in just in everyday things. But to be aware of things that catch your attention like that could be something that could lift you up out of that pit you might be in for that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, the Lord speaks to me in nature. I love being out in nature and walking, and I'm always looking at the sky. I look at the trees and the birds. Like in the morning where I hear the birds chirping, I'm going, my goodness, they're God's creation, and they are worshiping Him this morning with songs. And
yeah, I do the same thing.
You know what I mean? And the trees, where the wind is rustling through the trees, and you see those, the tree branches moving, and I'm like, oh my goodness, it's like they've raised their branches up to the heavens, worshiping the Lord, right? It's really, really incredible. We won't see Him if we choose not to see Him. But when we say, Lord, I want to see you, I want to feel you, I want to know you, He will make Himself known in so many different ways.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Stacy, I'm going to throw one more question at you, and we may not have the time to give it its full due, but at least we can touch on it. I think for some people, they lost someone this year. You know, something hard happened, 11 years ago. I know someone that 11 years ago, bad accident, and so that comes back. And speak to that, because that's hard for a lot of people.
Yeah, so my father passed away 11 years ago. And so, every year it's a year of, my dad's not around, my mother's not around. I don't have family around currently, right? So that is hard. Every year, though, it's different for me, right? And so what I would say is acknowledge the grief that is there. It's there, and there's a loss. And so we don't want to ignore that the person's no longer with us, but you acknowledge, I am missing them, and that is really okay. And then focusing on, well, who do I have in my life currently, right? We don't want to ignore who we've got and who was with us and the family, and being able to partake in this beautiful time of year and having that joy. But we also don't want to ignore the fact that I am missing this loved one. They meant so much to me. It's
That's
not
good.
either or, it's both and.
Yeah, that's good. And there is someone in your life that you can say, okay, God, thank you for that person and for their presence and being able to be there. And I think our listeners get a sense of some of the things you can help them with. Give us the contact info, Stacy, if you would, and then tell us about the podcast so that listeners that want to hear more, how they can get connected.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So one way to get in touch with me would be to give me a call. My number is 626-461-3344. I have all the other contact info on my website at trueministries.com. I have a broadcasts page on there. If you click on that, you'll be able to access the podcasts, my YouTube videos, Rumble as well. So I'm not only on the radio, but I also upload my videos to YouTube and Rumble where people can view rather than listen. So my website is a great place for people to go to even connect with me to schedule a free consultation as well. So everything is on the website. It's one-stop shopping, I'll say.
Stacy, so good to have you today. Thanks for helping us with developing, because it's not having, it's developing Heart of Gratitude. And we know you would probably tell us this starts well before Christmas, well before Thanksgiving, well before those times in your year when you feel, really down and hey, I'm not being very gracious and grateful for things. So it's Stacy Echeverria, trueyouministries.com. Stacy, thanks so much.
Thank you.